Do you hate phone calls in English or having to make an appointment? Then today's episode is just for you. My name's Oliver and welcome back to the Easy English podcast. A very warm welcome if you're new here. It's the best place to practice your English listening skills while learning some new vocabulary and phrases. So today we are going to talk about a very simple but anxiety creating topic or task, and that is making an appointment, especially when you're making an appointment in another language that isn't your native language. This could be for a doctor, maybe a haircut to go and get your hair shortened, or a business meeting, or maybe even to meet a new friend that you've met when you're studying abroad or traveling somewhere. That moment whenever you have the phone in your hand and you feel a little bit stuck. What do I say? How do I reply? What might they ask me? Today, we're going to look at this topic to hopefully give you a little bit more confidence to make those calls and to send those emails or texts without fear and without worrying so much. And don't worry, I'm not going to be just giving you lists of phrases and expressions. We're going to look through the general flow and the structure with some examples of appointments that you might be making. But as always, first we like to look at some key vocabulary here on the Easy English podcast. And every episode, I give you 5 key words and phrases that I want you to listen out for in today's episode. And if you know some of them, don't worry, that's fine. Just practice your pronunciation or listening. If you don't know any of them, that's also fine, and you will hear them in context during the episode. So, without further ado, let's look at our key vocab. The first word we have is appointment. Appointment. Of course, I had to choose this word because it is the topic for today. And an appointment is a pre-arranged meeting at a specific time. For example, you need to make an appointment to see a doctor, or you need to make an appointment to get your hair cut. In most places. The second word is available. Available. And this is an adjective. And it simply means that you're free to do something. Or someone is free to do something. Or something. For example, I am available to do something on Tuesday. It just means I am free on Tuesday to do something. Are you available on Tuesday? I'm asking if you are free and not busy on Tuesday. As third word is flexible. Flexible. And this is another great adjective, particularly with appointments. And it means being able to easily adapt and change. So if you're flexible, for example, with a date or a time, it means it doesn't matter too much. You can change the time. It can be around a certain time. It doesn't have to be exact. For example, I could say, my meeting time for tomorrow is flexible. It means it doesn't really matter. I can change and adapt my schedule. Our fourth word is confirm. Confirm. And this is a verb, a really good verb for this topic. And it means to state that something is true or correct. Really, in my mind, it means to almost agree on something. So I can say, please confirm that you can meet me tomorrow. And that means just let me know, is it correct? Do we agree? And our final vocab for today, our final word is schedule or schedule, I guess. There's some different pronunciations of that. I say, and where I'm from, we say schedule, schedule. And this is a noun. It is a plan that gives a list of events and times. For example, you might have a working schedule. So when you're doing certain tasks, when you're working, you might have a schedule for doing chores at home. So who and when they will do the bins or the beds or the cleaning. This is a schedule as well. So a great word when it comes to appointments and very important. So that is our words for today with the key vocabulary. And I want you to actively listen for these during the episode. They're great words and they're very useful even outside of this topic. You can get the full access to the larger vocabulary list for this episode on Patreon. That's included with every episode for Patreon subscribers with a PDF document with the full transcript of each episode, as well as vocabulary and listening exercises too. So some language exercises and comprehension questions, as well as bonus episodes every week. So if you want access to all of that and you would like to support the Easy English podcast, then check out the Patreon link in the description below. So click on that link, it will take you to Patreon, and there you can sign up and subscribe and support Easy English. And you can get access to all of this through the Patreon app or website. Okay, so we're going to start with the most common, or one of the most common, and often intimidating or perhaps nervous calls that you might have to make. And that is booking a doctor's appointment. So if you're calling up and you're booking an appointment, this can sometimes be quite a formal situation if you're having a medical conversation, which is why, particularly if you're on holiday or you are somewhere outside of your usual place or your native language, it can be a little bit scary because the language is probably more formal, maybe more polite, and it has to be clear because, of course, they need to understand the problem or the exact time that you're making an appointment for. But don't worry, this language can be used for any formal situation. I'm just using a doctor example for the content. So when you call to make an appointment for a formal situation, you want to make sure that you start with the polite request. They need to know what you are wanting from the beginning. That's very important with booking an appointment. And to be polite, you want to look at the use of would in this sentence I'm about to give you. So this word would sort of adds that politeness to the request. So you might call and say hello or good morning, good afternoon, whatever time it is. So hello, I would like to make an appointment, please. Now, why would we say I would like to instead of I want to? So if you say I want to make an appointment, in English that doesn't sound very correct. It does make sense grammatically and the sentence structure is absolutely fine, but it sounds a little bit harsh, maybe a little bit more like a demand rather than a request. Those are two different key features in the language, is demands and request. A request is more polite. You are asking for someone's time. If you make a demand, like an I want, then you are demanding someone's time rather than asking them for it. I hope that makes sense. So saying I would like to instead of I want to, it's a more softer and more natural way to express what you want or what you desire in a formal situation. Of course, don't apply that to everything. If you're simply answering a question to a friend or someone asks you what you want, that is absolutely normal. But if you're making a formal request, do stick to I would like. This might sound strange, but I am sure in your language you have different polite versions of words. In some languages, there are different words for the word you, for example. I talked about this in the last episode, or maybe last week. So there may be a polite form of the word you or of the verb in your language. In English, we use different words to show politeness and respect. It's exactly the same, and it is standard practice in formal English. So the receptionist or whoever has answered your call will likely ask you for your reason for the appointment or the visit. If it's a doctor's appointment, for example, you're going to just answer what the problem is. So, I would like an appointment with the doctor, or I'm not feeling well, something like that. If it's another formal situation, just say then what the purpose is after a little bit more detail. Then the next part of the structure or the flow of this conversation, after you've explained what it is exactly that you want or that you need, you're going to then talk about timing, about the day and time. And the key word here is available. Available. Particularly in a formal setting, people will say available rather than free. Free and available mean the same thing, but in casual, informal settings, friends will probably use free. I wouldn't say available to my friend, like I'm available, are you available? It sounds a little bit formal and strange. But when booking, medical appointments or a government appointment or something more formal, maybe a meeting as well, available is better than free. So you want to say, so they might say to you, for example, are you available to come in tomorrow? Or are you available for an appointment tomorrow? And you might say to them, I am only available in the morning time. So you're getting the exact time, and using that keyword available is a great way to talk about your schedule. If the time doesn't matter too much, or the day, you can say then that great word that I introduced at the start, I am flexible. So that puts the choice back onto the person you need the appointment with. So you say, I am flexible. When are you available? And you can let them choose from their schedule rather than yours. And finally, at the end of the call, particularly because English is perhaps not your native language, and phone calls are very hard, even for native speakers sometimes, to hear and understand everything. It's always good to confirm that everything is correct. So this verb, confirm, means to make sure that everything is correct, that everyone agrees. So you want to confirm at the end. So for example, great. Let's say the appointment is on Tuesday at 10 a.m. in the morning. Can I confirm that works? Something like that, they may say. So you want to always confirm at the end to make sure that you both have the correct information. Okay, let's look at a very quick example on how we can change this exact same structure for making an appointment, but for a more casual setting, a more casual environment. Let's say you're calling a friend. I know most people text nowadays, but let's just imagine this crazy scenario that you pick up the phone and you call your friend to see if they are free to meet you to go to, let's say, the cinema, right? You want to go and watch a movie and you want to see if your friend is free to meet up. So you might call them and say, hey, and instead of saying, are you available? You can be very direct. So I suppose what I'll say first is, because they're your friend, of course, you want to also be direct about the request, but you can be a lot less formal. So you might just say, you might call your friend and say, hi, are you free tonight? Let's say if you want to watch a movie tonight. Hey, are you free tonight? And that's instead of available. If we said, hey, are you available tonight? It sounds a bit strange. It sounds a bit formal, like a serious thing is about to happen. So, hey, are you free tonight? And your friend might say, no, I'm a little bit busy. And then you could say, like, you could use this word as well again, are you flexible with your plans this weekend? And they might give you a bit of an idea of their schedule. But you can notice the shift in the tone, particularly with that word available and free. And just the way you're asking, you're probably not going to confirm times, but it does probably help to follow that same structure of checking what you've agreed on at the end of the conversation. But just adapt the speech to be more friendly, more of a casual tone, and use your choice of words that you would use, of course, with a friend or someone that you know. And the reason I'm highlighting this in relation to friends is because this casual sense is the same way that you would communicate to book an appointment with a less serious setting. For example, if you're booking at a hair salon or, I don't know, a nails appointment or something more basic and simple that is less formal, less of a formal environment, you could call up and say, hi, are you free for an appointment on this day? Or, hi, I'd like to get my hair cut. It's not exactly a formal situation. The one thing I would say, though, that you don't need to do with your friends, that you still would need to do with a hair salon or a business, is try to soften your request a little bit. So a little bit of respect. For example, using that phrase, I would like, instead of I want. But with your friend, you could just say, I want to watch a movie. Are you free? And that's absolutely fine because they're your mate, they're your friend. If there's one thing that you take away from this episode about making appointments, it would be that phrase, I would like instead of I want. And it would definitely be the phrase available as well, and flexible. Two really, really great phrases there, and confirming your details. So today we don't have a listener spotlight section with your comments and answers to my questions. The reason is I am on holiday, so I've recorded this episode too close to the previous episodes to have time to read your comments and select some for recording. Because when I'm recording this episode, the previous episode has still not released yet. Hopefully, I'm relaxing somewhere on a beach or by a pool with a nice cold drink and some sun. But I want to do a slightly different section, which I think will be interesting for you. And that is a deeper look at the why behind the words. But first, I would like to remind you that if you haven't yet picked up a copy of Phrasal Verbs Are Easy. So Phrasal Verbs Are Easy is my ebook that I released this year, and it teaches you 50 English phrasal verbs that I think are useful. They're not the 50 easiest phrasal verbs. They're 50 phrasal verbs that I think are very useful in English. And I teach you those through short stories. Phrasal verbs can be really difficult to understand in English. Whenever we read them, they can be used in so many different ways. And often the meaning is very different from how they literally read, how different they can actually be in context. So that's why I created this book to teach you these words through the context of a story. When we have to learn lists of words and phrases, it can be really difficult to actually remember these. And it's boring. So that's why I've made a story for each phrasal verb in the book that helps you as you read through to get it into your head and understand how it's actually used. So if you want to support the show and pick up a copy of that book, you can in the link in the description below. There's a stan.store link, which is in the description of the episode. You can click onto that, and directly on there, you can buy a copy of the ebook and get access to it instantly. You can then do what you want with that book. You can print it off through like pages. You can view it digitally. You can do absolutely whatever way you would like to learn. So let's go back to the episode. And this is the why behind the words. So the real magic here is understanding the grammar. We use the present continuous tense to talk about future arrangements, particularly, when we're talking about an appointment that we've made. And I wanted to highlight that a little bit just to talk. I don't do it very often on this show, but to talk a little bit about the grammar. So when we're talking about a future appointment, we tend to use present continuous. So for example, I am seeing Dr. Smith on Tuesday, or I am meeting my friend later tonight. And this is a very common way to talk about these future appointments and plans that we have made. Perhaps we've just made them on the phone. The other little bit of grammar that I'd highlight from today is that we also use what is called modal verbs. Modal verbs, like could and would. Not to show a possibility, but to be polite and soften those phrases like we said. So that's like, I would like to book an appointment. And this is a cultural rule. It is not a grammar one. But I thought it's worth highlighting that it is, in a way, a cultural grammar rule. Because although those sentences are grammatically correct, they sound wrong in English. They sound a little bit harsh or aggressive. And it's just simply English's way of showing that respect and being polite. Different languages do it in different ways, but that's how we do it. Okay, so today you've learned a little bit about that flow and structure of making an appointment in English. And we've learned some useful phrases and words and some tips to help you sound polite and respectful. I hope you've had fun and I hope you've enjoyed practicing your English listening skills. And I hope that I will see you back in the next episode of the Easy English podcast. Thank you very much for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure that you're following and subscribed and that you've rated the podcast. You've left a review or a 5-star rating. It really, really helps. So thank you so much, and I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.